You can think of the Byzantine generals as participants in the Bitcoin network, but instead of generals deciding to attack or not, they are more like banks deciding on the same history of transactions. And instead of sending letters with horses, you are sending messages on the internet. As you can see, the problem is the same as before. You might have malicious banks in the Bitcoin network that could omit certain transactions, or even pretend to have one history of transactions with one half of the banks, but a completely different history with the other half, just like our malicious general did. And also, just like with the horses, on the internet you are never guaranteed to successfully transmit messages, because a computer might crash or lose its internet connection. Okay, so we already said that the solution is to somehow have a majority vote, and only if more than 50% of the network agrees, we decide on something. But we have also seen that this having a fair vote is not easy if people can vote differently depending on who the vote is for. To understand how fair votes in a decentralized network might work, let's talk about Shirley. Shirley Mason was born and raised in the US in Minnesota as the only child of a carpenter and a mother who was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She became an art student and later teacher. She would suffer from blackouts and emotional breakdowns, and eventually went into psychotherapy with Cornelia Wilbur. Over the time in therapy, she developed 16 different personalities. Her therapist encouraged her various selves to communicate and reveal information about her life, and also attributed Shirley's multiple personality disorder as a result of physical and sexual abuse she suffered from her mother. After Shirley's death, over 100 paintings were found locked in a closet in her home. These paintings became known as hidden paintings. Several of them were signed by Shirley, but some were created and signed by the alternate personalities. So, what has Shirley to do with Bitcoin? Imagine Shirley would have been one of the generals, but because of her 16 personalities, she would send 16 horses with 16 different votes. Which begs the question, how do we know one general is sending only one vote? This problem becomes even harder in the context of the internet. Wilbur, Shirley's therapist, would eventually write a book about her. In it, Shirley is given the pseudonym Sybil to protect her privacy. And these days, when you attack a computer network by creating a large number of identities, which really are just all controlled by one person, it's called a Sybil attack. And it's an attack which is hard to prevent, because on the internet, anyone can create any amount of entities he wants. You only need a computer with an internet connection. You probably have heard of Amazon Web Services, in short AWS. With services like this, creating thousands of such entities is an effort of just a few clicks. So you see, having a majority in the Bitcoin network cannot just mean more than half of all participating computers, because you can have Sybils. Imagine having a Shirley in the Bitcoin network that owns 16 computers. Now, Shirley could easily overpower other banks when voting. So we need a better way to determine what a majority for the Bitcoin network really means.